In this episode, we are celebrating more 90s November by taking a look at some forgotten 90s fantasy toys. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we are celebrating 90s November by taking a look at some forgotten 90s toys. This time around, we will be taking a look at fantasy toys, because it's kind of a full circle kind of thing, because the first forgotten 80s toys that we looked at were fantasy. So I thought, what better way to kick off the forgotten 90s by taking a look at that genre. Now, allow me a moment. And I'm not being negative, it's just a observation that I've made so far, because I am nowhere near complete cataloging the forgotten 90s toys, or just 90s toys in general. But so far, the fantasy genre seems to be lacking. And I can only attribute this to the popularity of Masters of the Universe kind of petering out, and toy companies not having any coattails to ride in that department. Now sure, there were plenty of cartoons and movies that fall within the fantasy genre, but I like taking a look at just wholly original fantasy toys. Now, I have found some pretty interesting ones, and I have a feeling they're going to be pretty forgotten. We will have no way of knowing until A, I search for photos and stuff to put into this video, and B, when we take our hunt on eBay to see if any of these still exist in that secondary market. Anyway, enough of all that, let's get to number one. Our first forgotten 90s fantasy toy was released in 1995 and was produced by the toy company Chap May. This is Dragon Force. Now these little 2.5-inch tall plastic knights are very reminiscent of your Green Army men, except they have the added bonus of limited posability and awesome silvery weapons. They also have snap-on armor, shields, and other really nice accessories. Now, this is a toy line that I have not been able to nail down 100%. I see a lot of listings for Dragon Force of just various medieval fantasy monster toys, but I'm not 100% sure that they fall within the Dragon Force banner, if you will. Now, those toys are really awesome, and it would be cool if they were part of this, but I don't really know. So I'm going to stick to the facts that I know. And those are that there were only a couple knights. You had like a black knight, a red knight. You had a black knight that came with a dragon. You had a horse that the knights could ride, and you had this monster set that came with a bunch of different knights, a couple different horses, and a couple different dragons. Now, like I said, these are very limited in their posability, and they're kind of lacking in detail, but I think they make up for it with their nice shiny weapons, like I mentioned, and the snap-on shiny armor. I mean, heck, even the dragons have shiny armor over their faces, and I think that's where most of their productivity went, was to make these shiny vacuum sealed weaponry and accessories. From what I can see, this is a pretty simple toy line, and that's pretty much all you really need to have fun when you're a kid. I mean, a couple knights, couple dragons, couple horses, and you got yourself a good time. for our second forgotten 90s fantasy toy. Remember when I said that I couldn't get quite a handle on what all were the Dragon Force toy line because there were just so many different toys that kind of fit that mold? Well, here's one of them. It was Hercules, also made by Chat May, but released in 1997. Now, 97 was a popular year for Hercules. You had the Disney movie, and you had the syndicated TV show of Hercules. So, I can kind of see why they latched onto those coattails and kind of wrote it for what it was worth. Now, they could have wrote it a little bit more because there were only a handful of figures released under the Hercules banner. And they were, of course, Hercules, which again is very minimal posability, minimal detail, but shiny weapons. But depending on which packaging that you picked up, you could actually get one of the Dragon Force dragons with Hercules. You could also get this awesome three-headed snake man dude, a really awesome centaur, or this green winged goblin dude. I don't know. Lack of a better term, I'm calling him a goblin, because that's what he looks like, but he has wings, but whatever. Anyway, it only seemed like they had 5 figures within the Hercules universe, and it just depended, like I said, on which packaging you picked up, because they would have a couple over here, a couple over here, all 5 of them here, 3 of them here, 2 of them here. They were all over the place, but I have to say, the one thing I truly appreciate about the Hercules toy line are the monsters. I mean, a centaur? That's pretty awesome. A winged goblin dude? Equally awesome. But a 3-headed purple snake dude? I mean, that is just simply art. And yeah, I would love to find some of these toys. Like I said, I don't know how forgotten they are and if they have a place on eBay. But we'll find that out shortly. Our third toy comes from 1993, and it is called Duface Monsters. Now, the Duface Monsters takes a more analog approach to some of the playtime features that we saw in 80s toys. Now, opposed to having a button you push or anything freaky, you just simply turn their head around. So on one side you have a monstrous creature, and on the other you have a human warrior. There were 4 in total, and I have to say right now, the packaging artwork is top notch. The back of the package featured all 4 with their, it's almost like a file card with really great artwork that was also featured on the front of the package for which individual character you got. So the characters were Alligator Warrior, Viking Skeletor, Bullbuster, and Ghost Stealer. They all came with a single accessory except for Viking Skeletor, which came with 2. He came with a sword and a shield. Now the others, like Bullbuster, came with a awesome golden mace. Ghost Stealer came with a staff with a human skull atop of it. I mean, pretty awesome. Oh, and before I forget, Alligator Warrior also came with an awesome accessory. He came with a staff with like a bronze clawed hand at the top of it, which when I see that, it reminds me of Big Trouble in Little China. You know, one of the 3 storms had those claw things and he slashed that guy in the face, you know, awesome. Again, this is a toy line that I'm kind of smitten over because it's pretty simplistic. And this is what I'm talking about with the lack of fantasy toys of the 90s. This harkens back to the wonders of 80s fantasy toys when there was a devil-may-care attitude. And yeah, they gave an awesome backstory, I'm assuming, to these characters because they have little write-ups on their file cards. Even though I can't find a really good like HD quality picture in order to read them. Hopefully I will for this editing, but for now, I don't know what it says, but they have a lot to say, so props to them for being creative and using their imaginations. Now, our 4th forgotten toy also comes from 1993, this time from the company Mannix. and it is simply titled Vikings. Now, there were 4 Vikings in total, and from what I can find online, they don't have names. It's just kind of Viking 1, 2, 3, 4, even though each one of them is pretty unique in how they look. Now, I forgot to mention when I was talking about Duface Monsters that when I was researching that, I could not turn up a toy manufacturer. So it's kind of unknown, but I'm leaning towards Mannix because the Viking toys and the Duface Monster toys kind of share a lot of the same attributes. Like, this one Viking comes with a hand at the end of his staff, very much like alligator warriors, so that could be. But the one difference is the body styles. These Vikings all have very robust, barrel-chested molding in their chests. And I think it might be like a hollow opposed to, like a rubberized plastic like Masters of the Universe. Now, another feature is their legs, which are completely unposable, are kind of molded more in a action stance opposed to just a static pose. So that's a little bit different, and that's actually a trend that we saw a lot in the 90s. I wasn't a big fan of it. I mean, there were some really nice figures out there that just, I think, were not living up to their potential because of those posed legs. But anyway, these Viking figures, I like them. I mean, they would fit into any Playtime universe when dealing with medieval fantasy toys, and I'm a fan. I mean, they all have different accessories and weapons. Like I said, the one dude has the clawed hand staff. One has a really weird, like, Layfield-esque bladed weapon with blades this way and that way, and could be an MC Escher sculpture, I don't know. Another one has a mace, just like the Bullbuster figure, but this time it's not gold, it's, like a white ball at the end with like a blue handle. And the fourth one, again, just like with the Viking Skeletor, comes with a sword and a shield. So, like I said, I'm leaning heavily that Mannix, the producers of Vikings, were also the ones that made Duface Monsters. Maybe that'll be an answer that I uncover when we look for pictures for this episode, or when we do our search over on eBay. I mean, if we don't turn up anything with just Duface Monsters, maybe we'll throw Mannix on there and see if we get a different hit or two out of that. But anyway, I'm a fan of these Viking toys, fan of the Duface Monsters, and now let's see what we have for our 5th and final forgotten toy. Now, our 5th and final forgotten 90s fantasy toy is one that has probably the most simplistic of names imaginable for what it is. These are action figures. Yes, you heard me right. The toy line is simply called action figures. And they were made by Ja Rou in 1993. 93 must be a pretty popular year for fantasy toys. But this action figure toy line called action figure is right up my aisle. This is what I'm talking about. This is 5 figures that are heavily inspired by a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Simple names as in action figure wrestler, action figure ninja, which looks more like John Belushi's samurai character from Saturday Night Live, action figure combo fighter, which I don't know where that name comes from, but he comes with a battle axe that's very much like He-Man's and an awesome shield. You also have action figure fighter, which isn't part of the fantasy genre, but he's part of this toy line, and yeah, we can see who he's inspired by from how he looks to what accessories he comes with. And our fifth and final one, action figure Insect Man, that his face sculpt is very reminiscent of Coleco's Sectar's toy line. Now the packaging states that there are 6 styles, so I'm really curious to see if I can uncover what the 6th one is. On top of saying that there are 6 different styles, it also says that they have twistable waists, movable heads, arms, legs, and comes with weapons and accessories. I mean, yeah, this is what I long to see when talking about forgotten toys. These that you probably would find in your local Woolworth, Kmart, Caldor possibly, the ones that they're not very reputable but very playable. I mean, as a poor kid, even in the 90s, I would have grabbed these up if I wasn't too old. I mean, I was in high school, so I wasn't clamoring for them, but my heart was still there, believe me. I mean, my money was going more towards the adult McFarlane toys and stuff like that, but my heart will always be with the cheap toys. Anyway, that was 5 forgotten 90s fantasy toys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue on with more 90s November in the coming weeks. So, the next video right after this one will be our hunt on eBay for these forgotten toys. So until then, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everyone. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down below, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified anytime there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thank you so much for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky.